Welcome to 28 Days and Beyond, where we reflect and celebrate on our history, our heritage, our culture, and our own authentic voice. And I'm your host, Alexander Evans, with my co-host, Amari Johnson.
What's going on, man?
We're going to talk about social media, man.
Okay.
You play on that thing? You play on social media?
Do I play on it like as a game?
It could be.
Yeah, you know, I do. I think a lot of us do, man.
Okay.
I've been on. So I was one of the first people on Facebook.
You was?
That makes me valuable. That
It
makes
does?
me important. Yeah, at that time it was only open to a small amount of schools, and eventually it expanded into what it is today. Yeah, I've been on for a while. I would say I'm teetering with an addiction. You know what I mean? It's kind of got me. I can't go anywhere without my phone and just seeing what's going on, which has its positives and its negatives. What about you?
Yeah, I'm on a few of them. Twitter, LinkedIn.
What you be tweeting?
Tweet, little birdie watching me. Well, I use it for networking.
All right.
I use it to interact with those who I haven't seen in a long time on the Facebook part. You know, happy birthday, those kind of things.
Yeah.
I'm not knee deep into it, but I converse on it. But I do think that we're more integrated, we're more connected, but yet so more isolated.
Interesting. How so?
Well, I think sometimes these interactions becomes transactional as opposed to relational. And then the things that you throw out into the ether, as we call it, like you jump out the window without the parachute, you can't retrieve yourself back. So we also got to be cautious on how we communicate, because once you communicate in the written language without the emotional connection, things can be misinterpreted.
But at the same time, there can certainly be meaningful and emotional relationships that are built, man. An example that I use is a few years ago, a brother and I started an online show, YouTube, right? And it was really just to speak to the college campus that we were on at the time, but putting it on YouTube and putting it on Facebook kind of expanded it around the country and eventually around the world. So one day we put out the call that we were going on a tour. We were going to go from Austin, Texas, where we were, all the way up to Toronto. And we kind of just said, people, shout us out where you are, we'll come by and see you.
Wow.
When I'm trying to tell you the outpouring of love when we go through places like New Orleans, Atlanta, Baltimore, DC, people opening up their homes, you know, taking us out to lunch, letting us sleep on their floor or their couch, like that was certainly something that I thought was a real community based off of that initial virtual interaction. So that was definitely a positive to it.
No, I like that, because I have literally communicated with people through social media and never have met them and been doing it for years and years.
Yeah.
And then some I have finally met, and we talk like we've been friends forever.
Yeah.
So no, you're right. You can build that connection on it, and that's one of the things I do like. And it, you know, you don't have to travel everywhere.
I mean, that's one of the strengths of it, man. You got whatever your most particular interest is, there are people out there who may not be in your immediate city, but there are people out there online who are also interested, and that you can kind of build relationships around that. Obviously, this sort of thing has its positives and its negatives, its ups and its downs, but I think that, you know, that's obviously something you want to be cautious of and aware of, but there's certainly a lot of good that can come out of it.
Oh yeah, I think you can communicate faster. It can go international, as you well know, and the influence it can have, and moving, selling, and positioning merchandise, which is really good.
Because you about that paper.
How about that paper?
That's what, I mean, yeah, definitely the online, you know, e-commerce is obviously the fastest growing in all of the world, man. I mean, so much so to the point where people are moving away from brick and mortar stores. Not completely, but, you know, it's definitely happening, man. But today we're joined by Eva Wilson, who is the founder of SocaMom.com. And we're going to really delve into this whole idea of social media and virtual communities when we come back.
Yes, mommy, or if there's greeting someone, it's yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Not hi. Hi is for friends, and I think my kids get that.
Correct.
Yes, absolutely. I think when I'm traveling or when we're abroad, the first thing people would notice about my parenting style is that I'm the parent and they're the children. There's a huge amount of respect because there's no other way that I would have it.
People could definitely tell that I am a Caribbean mom because I have the look with my boys, and when they start acting out of order, I definitely give them a very sharp look and they get their acts together really quickly.
Leah knows when I give her the look.
The look.
The look.
Everybody knows the look.
That's right. There's no question at all.
I don't have that look that means like you want to get it when you get home. They know that. But we were in a restaurant one time and this woman asked me, she's like, "Are you from the Caribbean?" I was like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" And she said, you pointed with your lips. And I do that a lot, and I know my mom did it too, like, sit down right there, right this way, you know, so.
People can definitely tell I'm a Caribbean parent because anytime I have the kids start acting up, my accent just like whoop. And the kids know exactly when the accent comes, they need to sit and be quiet.
Things that my kids get away with my mom, there's no way, no way they would ever get away, that I would have been able to get away with it.
When I feel like I want to discipline him, she's always the first one to say, no, that's my baby. Give him a second chance. Meanwhile, I had no second chances. There were no second chances for me. So she's completely different, and I love her to death, but it is so hard because I'm just out here trying to parent.
Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. And on the set with us, we have Eva Wilson.
Hi.
Welcome to the set.
Thank you.
Tell us, what is SocaMom?
SocaMom.com is a blog about Caribbean parenting.
Okay.
And I talk about everything from homeschooling to food and music and entertainment, festivals, pretty much anything to help Caribbean people who live in America or who live in England or Canada to stay connected to the culture.
What brought you to that?
Well, I grew up in South Carolina, which is not exactly a mecca of Caribbean people, right? So I had a son and I wanted to get him connected. So we ended up moving to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And still, it's one of the communities where you have to know somebody. If you want, I wanted my son to play steel pans. So I'm like, okay, you know, you can't look in the phone book. And at that time, the internet was fairly new. So, you know, there's nowhere to look it up. Nobody's telling you how to find anything. So I said, I'm gonna start a community where all of the things where you have to know somebody who knows somebody, everybody just knows me. And if you know Eva, she can help you get to your steel pan class. She can help you get the best roti in town. She can,
Roti?
Right. So she can help you get to the festivals, get your costumes, things like that.
I like habanero powder too, by the way.
Oh, see.
We won't go there.
Okay.
but why did you think it was important to build that community for your son and for yourself as well?
When I was growing up, the community ended when I left my door.
Okay.
Because, like I said, it's not it was Aiken, South Carolina. There's really nobody else. There's hardly a Caribbean restaurant, anything like that. So it was tough when you leave your house that it's completely foreign. It's like other cultures that come to the U.S. where, you know, Hispanic cultures, you might live in a place where you can always go outside and get some food or you hear the music or something like that. I didn't live in that kind of situation. So when I went to my first stateside carnival, I was like, wait, there are hundreds, thousands of people exactly like me that are born in the U.S., but they love curry. They love, you know,
some jerk.
They love pepper sauce. They have the lunch that, you know, you open up your lunchbox and everybody's like, what is that? You know. So I realized that there already is a community and that we really need to, there's a lot of kids that you want to feel connected to something. And I didn't feel connected to the African American community because that wasn't my experience. My parents had an accent. You know, the food was different. My house looked different. You know, I'd go into my African American friends' homes and they'd have the big spoons on the wall. Everybody could relate to the big spoon on the wall, right? And the picture of Martin Luther King Jr., you know, and Malcolm X, right? That wasn't my house. So I felt like having that kind of connection was important for me. And once I met other people like that, I was like, it's a done deal.
But I mean, like, how long, you know, over what period of time did you go about building this community? How did you do it? You know, and were people responsive right away, or did it take time?
People were really responsive right away. So the way that it ended up online, I went to a blogging conference before I had the website. And it just so happened that the people running the conference were, there was one from Toronto via Trinidad. There was, her partner was from, I want to say Haiti. And then there was another one, I believe she was from Guyana, not 100% sure, but all three of them were Caribbean American people. And when I told them the idea, they were like, wait, that would be awesome. So, and I met so many other people like that at the conference that were like, you have to do this. You really have to go ahead and do this, because a lot of people won't say what their heritage is because they don't know enough. They feel like they don't know enough to identify. They'll say, well, yeah, my grandmother's Jamaican, but I don't want to have a conversation with a Jamaican person because they might start speaking to me in patois. Or they might ask me about a certain food and I don't know anything about it. I might have eaten it, but I don't know anything about it. I don't really have that full experience. So they love coming to the website and really getting to find out what their parents were talking about, or thinking about other countries that they could go visit that were similar to where they were, how to get back home and get connected, things like that.
So, so I guess you gauge the temperature. What are some of the other things that you do, far as like from a, if someone wants to find out if a particular person have an expertise in accounting and you want to keep those dollars circulating within your community, do you do such things like that, or speak out against issues, or speak up for issues and things of that nature?
The main issue that I talk about as far as politics and things like that would be immigration. Because so many of us have mixed status families. You have some people born here, you have some people whose parents might be resident alien, you have another person in the family, so, and then we also don't talk about it because people look at us and we assimilate very well. You know, you look at us and you say, that's an African American person, they can't possibly be having immigration issues. You don't want to talk about it and you don't want to ask questions, because if you raise your hand, they're looking for you. So, you know, we don't have those on the surface, your mother speaks Spanish and so they're looking at you, you know. Accent is gone in one generation. And sometimes if you get here before you're 12, it's long gone, unless you're around friends or family. So we talk about immigration a lot.
Now you said also, you mentioned Canada and the UK. How interactive are these, you know, populations outside of the United States with the website?
Oh man, I mean, if you look at my top 3 visits, it's US and then Canada and then the UK and then the Caribbean countries, which is pretty interesting that they would come. I'm like, you're kind of already there. I don't know why what else you could learn, but they actually, you know, they actually spend a lot of time on the site, believe it or not.
That's wonderful. Well, Eva, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dig a little bit deeper.
Wouldn't it be awesome if HP sent me ink before I needed ink? Like dropped it off at my door. Kind of like a personal ink delivery service. Like, I mean, that's what I think that would be genius. Hi, this is Eva from SocaMom.com. A lot of people ask me, Eva, how do you get everything done that you need to get done? You do so many things. I'm a karate mom. I am also a soccer mom. Oh God. Oh, that smells so bad. Oh. Whoa. I'm also a ballet mom. I am also a jazz mom. How do I get all of those things done? One of the things that all of these activities have in common, I do a lot of printing. So if I do a lot of printing, that means I use a lot of ink. A lot of ink. I have to print for law school, I have to print for homeschool, I have to print permission slips and insurance forms and all of these things that come with being a really busy mom and a blogger and an author and an illustrator. I might be printing from my computer. The kids might be printing their worksheets from my phone. A lot of printing is going on in our house. We do things like this. We make photo strips with the kids. They really enjoy these. As you can probably guess, I don't have a lot of time. So I definitely don't have time to go to the store when we run out of the ink to get more ink. I'm going to give you one of my super secret tips to save time. It's called HP Instant Ink. Instant Ink.
Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond, and we're going to dig a little deeper with Eva Wilson. What are some of the politics in your community with this climate that we see right now?
Well, clearly this is a time where everybody's kind of galvanized as far as race is concerned. So it's not necessarily a cultural discussion as much as it is a racial discussion, because like I was saying, when someone looks at me, they don't say, oh, well, you know, she's not the same as everybody. That's not the conversation that they have. That's an African-American woman, and I can get pulled out of a car just like anybody else and be assaulted. My son, my daughter, my husband, all of us feel like we're at risk right now. So that is one of the things. Politics is something that has brought everybody together. In the Caribbean community, you know, you have the guys who sit on the porch. I guess in the African American community, it would be the barbershop.
Or the corner.
Or the corner. But they sit on the porch and they have these very, very deep political discussions. So that's one of the things that is expected. You're expected to be up to date and to know what's going on around you, just globally, right? So one of the things that I put on my page with no commentary, really, was the executive orders when it came to immigration, because for our community, it's really important. So, you know, on the street, no one may round you up, but on paper, many of us have those last names that can be targets. We might not have the physical appearance or the Spanish speaking that would make you a target, but if you have Gonzalez on your birth certificate or on your visa, some of us have, I mean, it's a very diverse culture, so you have various religions. I know some people who are from Trinidad and have, you know, what would be assumed to be Muslim middle, last, first names, and they've been detained during this whole thing. They're not from any of the 7 countries. So, you know, we have to deal with the same biases that so many other people have to deal with, and sometimes it's more so because it's so diverse. When we come over here, we have so many different. It's not just going to be Johnson and Jackson and you know. It's going to be certain names where I might look like this.
Right.
And my last name is Lopez, and my you know, my son's name is Muhammad. I don't, you know, you just never know.
Wow.
Certainly. Another thing that you mentioned earlier was homeschooling was another issue that you talk about on the site. We've seen a lot of studies recently saying that black people in this country are homeschooling at higher rates. How are folks in your community talking about it, and what are some of the motivations to homeschool?
Well, education is huge in the Caribbean community. It's just huge. And a lot of people, you'll find out, came to the United States for school. They came to usually HBCUs for their education. So education has always been very, very important. And when it comes to educating your children, I know when I was growing up, they were just looking for the best. It really didn't matter, you know, what color everybody was. I mean, I was in a class where there were 2 black girls that graduated. That was me and somebody else. You know, growing up, I was always the only black kid in class because they're not thinking about the climate. They're not thinking about, we're in the South in the 70s. They don't care nothing about that. It's like, you're getting picked on, so are you learning things? That's what was important. So I've noticed, I didn't expect my mom and my family to be very receptive to me homeschooling because I went to traditional schools. And they were actually really, really open to it. And when I talk about it on the website, everybody wants to know more about it, because in our communities, we're dealing with so many things in schools. And if you can't afford the best school, and you can't afford the best neighborhood to go to the best school, then you have to do something about it. And when you have necessity on one hand, and you have them thinking about how important education is on the other hand, you'll really do anything. Because many of us as immigrants did anything to get here. You know, we went through so much to get here. Nobody wants to get here and then find out it's not really the land of opportunity. You better make an opportunity. Because like my dad was telling me, I had a one-way ticket. I'm not going home. You know, there's nothing else I can do. So I think the kind of make-a-way mentality has made homeschooling and other alternative forms of schooling, co-ops, things like that, the Caribbean community is very receptive to that. And I think the black community is very receptive to that with the make a way out of no way.
Make a dollar out of 15 cents.
That's right.
So let me ask you this. How has that positively impact your kids, that education, when it comes to their identity? Because we understand the injustices, like you said, being a minority within those groups and things of that nature, and sometimes it can have a psychological effect.
Well, it gives me more time to discuss with them how they're feeling.
Okay.
Because a lot of times you don't get to sit, you can tell a kid, this is what's going on. Please don't wear a hoodie when you go to the mall. Know what you're gonna buy when you get there, get it and get out. You can tell your daughter, you know, pink hair is cute, but let's not do that, you know. But I have time to talk to them about how they're feeling about that.
Okay.
And so when we're talking about current events and things like that, I can say, okay, this is what's happening. This is the history behind what's happening. And how do you feel about that? Because in a traditional school, you don't have time for that. Even if you're in a classroom of all one race of people, you don't necessarily have the same experience. And inside my home, all three of them, if they have nothing else the same, they've got that same experience. A very, you know, they get up at the same time in the morning. So they have a kind of like a homogenous view of things already. So we have a nice base to talk about how you are feeling, how we as a family will deal with it, and what our, you know, what our beliefs are.
Wow.
And how long have you been homeschooling from the beginning, or?
Oh no.
All right.
No. This was not something, homeschooling was not something that I was like, oh, guess what I'm gonna do when I
birth
grow
them
up.
in school,
Right, that was not the plan. So they all went to school as soon as humanly possible. I'm just gonna be honest. That was not what I had intended.
Certainly.
My oldest went through 6th grade, about 6th grade, and my youngest went to regular school till she was about 4. So she actually had gone to school kind of early. And my middle son went until he finished 1st grade. So since then, they're now 17, 11, and 10.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot of homeschooling.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It
now,
is a lot.
But how has your online community supported you in this? I mean, you know, whether through resources or, you know what I mean, what role has the online community played in your homeschooling journey?
Well, I provide a lot of resources
Okay.
to other people. So, and most of it is centered around the West Indies. So it's funny, a lot of brick and mortar schools and teachers will send me messages about how much they appreciate the things that I've put online for them to use in their classrooms. So it's kind of like we get to make a contribution to the larger community.
Interesting.
And to schools that are interested in teaching something other than Western civilization. You know, they can actually find other things to talk about. We have worksheets on Marcus Garvey. We have all kinds of interesting things like that, especially how because my kids are American kids, you know, and I'm an American person. So especially things where they interrelate, and we talk about food and different things like that. We have some animals that we have here in America that just have a totally different name in other countries, so we have worksheets about that. And
so SocaMom.com for all your Caribbean needs.
Not all of them.
Not all, but
Not all of them.
Eva Wilson, we want to thank you for joining us on 28 Days and Beyond. And when we come back, we'll have our final thoughts.
My name is Donna, and I blog at brattlesandheels.com. And I am from Grenada, and I currently live in New York City with my husband and my 2 kids.
My name is Danny Faust. I blog at OKDanny and fitnoir.com. I am of Jamaican descent, and I live in South Florida with my husband and 2 children.
Hi guys, I'm Keitha, the Bajan Texan. I am from the beautiful island of Barbados, and I live in Houston, Texas. My blog is called The Bajan Texan, and I blog about DIY crafting and juggling it all.
Hi, I'm Debbie Ann White. I'm from Kingston, Jamaica. I have a beautiful 8-year-old daughter, and we currently reside in Miami, Florida. And I am the Senior Vice President of Public Relations and Promotions for Sandals Resorts and Beaches Resorts.
Hi, I'm Michelle Gordon. I'm mother to 11-year-old Christian David and 8-year-old Amanda Mae Gordon. I am the editor of B3 Parenting Magazine, and we all live in Kingston.
We're back with 28 Days and Beyond with our final thoughts. Good conversation. What are some of the things that came to mind as she was talking about, you know, SocaMoms and how she built that community?
One of the things I thought was powerful was this is an international community of people who, you know what I'm saying? So in other words, I think like part of this whole thing about social media is it forces us to reconsider what a community is. You know what I mean? So right, they may not see each other, they may not have these sort of real physical interactions, but they are real in the sense that they're exchanging information and value and so on and so forth. So I thought that was really powerful, man. I mean, especially for it to have grown as quickly as it has, to be international as it is. What about you?
You know, I thought about what a great tool, and how to use that tool to have positive impact and connection, and how you can build that community and get those supports that you need when you're going through some of the same things from an international perspective, and how you'll begin to see that things domestically, people are experiencing them from a global perspective, and then you can build those kind of support channels to encourage, enlighten, and educate people on what are the appropriate steps to deal with whatever circumstance or situation they're dealing with. So I really like that.
And you know what, man, a theme that we come across throughout this show has been like this whole idea of, you know, we need to sort of speak to everybody. I thought it was really wonderful about this was in her speaking to a very particular community, everybody found benefit. So she says teachers who have weighed in and said, oh, this was a great resource. Or, you know what I mean? People who are just trying to learn more about that. By her focusing on a specific community, you know, it's got a benefit that expands beyond that. You know what they say, you can't fool all the people anyway. Yeah.
But you know what, the key thing is, you got to take care of you first. You got to be healthy
Certainly
first,
so.
right?
Yep.
And you got to build your house first, and then you can worry about to a degree, worry about your neighbors. So I thought that was important, making it intrinsic within that community.
Yeah, man, it was really good to have Eva Wilson from SocaMom.com join us today on 28 Days and Beyond. So we want to thank you for joining us as well, where we reflect and celebrate our history, culture, and heritage in our own authentic voice. Until next time, peace.